Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining for today's webinar on predictive weather files for building energy modeling, a discussion with the scientists from CSIRO with Melissa James and Dr. Jensen Wren. I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land of the place I'm hosting the meeting from. I wish to acknowledge the custodians of the land of Sydney, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and their elders past and present. I acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this city and this region. The event today is brought to you by IBPSA, International Building Performance Simulation Association from the Australasia chapter. IBPSA is a non-profit international society of building performance simulation researchers, developers, and practitioners that are dedicated to improving the building environment. The mission of IBPSA is to advance and promote the science of building simulation in order to promote the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of new and existing buildings. We do this by facilitating the exchange of information, engaging educational initiatives, sponsoring research, and forming alliances with diverse organizations. I am Precipitation, your host for today, and I'm a graduate sustainability consultant with NDBI. And I'm also a part of the events committee here in IBPSA. So I welcome everyone, and I'm very thrilled to be here. If you'd like to know more about IBPSA and our events, please join us in our online platforms such as our website or LinkedIn. Our upcoming event is on Green Star Buildings and Modeling Pathways by GBCA on the 16th of November. Look up our website or LinkedIn for the registration, which will open up shortly. So today we have the honor to talk with Melissa James and Dr. Jensen Wren. Melissa is a senior experimental scientist at CSIRO, applying her wide range experience in system analysis, database design, data analysis, and data visualization in the field of energy, particularly in residential buildings and energy efficiency. Her current work focuses on exploring how data generated by the nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme, NATIS, can be used to generate new insights into residential buildings' energy efficiency. She also contributed to further development of residential energy rating tools, including Accurate and Aussie Design. Along with her, we have Dr. Jensen Wren. Dr. Jensen is a principal research scientist at CSIRO Energy Division, where he manages the development of decision support tools such as Aussie Design tools and WOH software tools to simulate energy consumption for residential buildings. Jensen is also a key member for further development of Chinet Engine and Accurate for nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme NATIS. In 2002, Jensen completed his PhD at Queen's University Belfast, where his work was focused on indoor environment. We are delighted to have you both for today's webinar. Melissa will be the first to present for the meeting, followed by Dr. Jensen. But before we get started, thank you all for participating in the polls asked on LinkedIn, and also thank you for sending us the questions in the registration forms. I would like to inform that the speakers have already been provided with most commonly asked questions that have been collected from the registration forms and hoping they can be discussed in the presentation. If anyone has any questions throughout the presentations, please write them in the chat box, as Melissa or Jensen will be able to respond at the end of presentation. And if time permits, we will also join in a live Q&A session. Thank you, and over to you, Melissa.
Thanks very much, Pratiti. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and thank you to PC and the IBPSA for inviting Zhengen and me here to talk to you about the weather files. We're very keen for them to be used as much as possible, and anything we can do to facilitate that, we're happy to do. And thanks, Pratiti, for your introduction. Oops, sorry. I will introduce the weather files and tell you how to access them. And then Zhengen will tell you how the files were created, how they can be used, and the pros and cons associated with them. And then we're happy to take questions. There are two main types of weather files, the typical meteorological year and the predictive files. They've been developed with funding from the Australian Government's Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, and we're grateful to them for their assistance. Firstly, the typical meteorological year or TMY files. They contain hourly weather data for a typical meteorological year in the Energy Plus weather file or EPW format. They can be used by building energy modelling software, including Energy Plus, ESPR and IESVE. The TMY is based on Bureau of Meteorology weather data from the years 1990 to 2015. And the data comes as a 19 megabyte zip file, which contains 83 text files, one for each of the 83 Australian locations that are covered by the data. The second set of weather files is the predictive weather files, and the data in these files is based on the TMY data to which global climate models and morphing have been applied. Zhengen will talk more about this later. These files contain hourly weather data for one of 4 future years, 2030, 2050, 2070 or 2090, under one of 3 future climate scenarios, RCP 2.6, 4.5 or 8.5 at one of the 83 Australian locations. The data is available in 2 formats, the Energy Plus weather file format for use by the tools previously mentioned, and the second format is in the NatHERS weather file format. NatHERS is the Nationwide House Energy Rating Scheme, and the files can be used by the NatHERS accredited tools Accurate, VERS Pro, First Rate 5 and HERO for non-regulatory purposes. The files come either as a 227 megabyte or 129 megabyte zip file, depending on the format, and they each contain 996 text files, one for each combination of location, climate scenario, and future year. This image shows the climate change scenarios on which the data is based. The left-hand image shows the carbon emissions trajectory under each scenario up to the year 2100, and the right-hand image shows the resulting radiative forcing. The weather files can be accessed using the link shown here to the CSIRO Ag Climate Data Shop. There are 3 categories of, I'll move this. There are 3 categories of data available here, and one of them is building energy. So you can click on that to see the 2 types of files that I've talked about, the predictive and the TMY. You can click on these to see further information about these weather files, including there are user guides available for each of those types of data. And you can use the shopping cart to order the files and download them. They're free to download. We're very keen to get your feedback on the weather files so that we can improve them over time. You can contact us via the data shop email address shown here. And we will also be conducting surveys of people who have downloaded the data, seeking further feedback. That's all I have to say, and Zhengen will now tell you how the files were created and how they can be used and the pros and cons associated with them. And after that, we'll take questions. Thank you very much, and I'll pass over to Zhengen.
So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I will talk the idea behind how to predict the qualifier for building energy performance simulation. So my colleague Zita and also Marissa working on this project. So first of all, I will have a brief, short brief myself. As a previous introduction, I got a PhD at Queen's University Belfast 2002. Since then, my research focused on the energy efficient and house buildings. So the software I needed, including during my PhD study, is cloud, the commons with the Subzone models for indoor air quality. So if you are familiar with the indoor air models, cloud is developed by international around 9 or 11 countries. So for the indoor air quality. So since I joined CSIRO 2007, I lead in 3 tools. One is the outside of the design tool. This is for during the 3 years project for Australia zero emission housing project. And started from 2019. So I lead in the whole house energy rating tool for new house. This is a benchmark tool for whole house energy rating proposed by the NERTS. And start from last year, I also lead in the whole house tool, whole house rating for existing house. This may be also possible for benchmark tool for NCC 2022. And one of my the major research is continue to improve the change engine, which is a core engine for Australia housing energy rating schemes. So as Melissa said, we have 2 types of verify. One is present days verify and another the future. So for the present day, the verifies current version is the RMY 2016, which was developed not by CSIRO, it's by the third party in the New Zealand, the Ben Reedy optimistic scientists, and they are developed for the net schemes. The climate zone expand from previous 69, I think. Yeah, here is the 69 climate zones. So you can see where see that we have a global of, for each the postcode belongs to which climate zone. For the 83 climate zone, they have not added another 14 the new climate zone the postcode yet, but we have got the presented the postcode for each 83 of this climate zone. So the key, the major climate data in and RMYS verifiers used by NERTS, including the dry bulb temperature, absolute humidity, wind speed and the directions, pressure, cloud cover, and the global solar irradiation, diffusion irradiation, and the direction. So for commercial buildings, if you use the energy plus, they use another, they're not use absolute humidity, they use the relative humidity, and also the dew point temperature. So later, I will talk how to, based on these parameters, how to calculate the relative humidity and also dew point temperature. So maybe as you know, when you how to develop the TMY or RMY, the verifiers, they based on the observed the hourly weather data from 1990 to 2015. So that's 26 years data. So for TMY or RMY, you need to choose from this 26 for each month, like January, how to choose which year and the construction for the 12 months. So the methodology was based on the valleys and the urbans developed in 1995. The key is because you have so many the different like temperature, humidity, and wind. So you cannot just base on the temperature. So they use the weighting factor, they call weighting factor, to choose the the months represent the typical the distributions for all the 26 the years the data. So for each month you need to choose you use the different years the months. So represent the we call the average or typical during this period. So one issue is the weighting factor. So this is the band they use for develop the RMI, or we call it the TMY. So for the bubble temperature, they have three maximum dry bubble temperature. The factor is 1, and the minimum dry bubble temperature is 1, and the mean dry bubble temperature is 2. For the dew point temperature, they also get the 3 maximum dew point temperature and minimum dew point, and the mean dew point temperature is 2. So for wind speed, they got the maximum wind speed and mean wind speed. For solar radiation, so they have 5 for the global radiation and the net 5. This is a RMIA. This column is for the residential and also for RMIB and RMIC is for the commercial buildings. As you know, for commercial, particularly for larger the commercial building, maybe solar radiation is not played so large significantly on them. So they are for the solar radiation, they just for global radiation just 5 and another 2. But from Bell, they reported studies. It seems that differed very little between the A, R, B, and the C. So they choose, or even you choose for commercial buildings, the represent amounts choose maybe the similar like the residential buildings. So here we just use the RA, the weighting factors for the RMI. The main reason, I think, because the solar radiation is largely dependent on the latitude. So maybe it's not much impacted by this the year's data. So this is for the RMI, the development. So then this developed the future, the word files. So the methodology we use here is combined present day, the word data, with the predicted change in the future. So as Marisa suggested, we have considered 3 greenhouse gas concentrations, and it was used, they called the represent concentration pathway. It is a possible range radiation for observations at the end of 21 centuries. So here we choose 2.6, 4.5, and 8.5. So this is published in the 5th the IPCC report, so 2014. So for the RCP, the 2.6 is primary the scenarios. Here we need to mind this is a concentration. The represent is not carbon emission. Carbon emission, as Marisa showed, like the 2.6, it is it means the carbon emissions at peak is 2020, and since then will decline until 0 at the end of 21 centuries. So the temperature will be less than 2 degrees at the end of 21st century. So for the intermediate scenario, we choose 4.5. So for this one, the carbon emissions peak around the 2040s. So the warmer temperature is below 2 and 3 degrees. For the we call the RP 8.5. This maybe is business as usual. No any policy to reduce the carbon emissions. So at the end of 21 centuries, the temperature will increase 5 degrees compared to the pre-industry. So this is 3 scenarios we use for predict the temperatures. And then is the, we have looked at the 4 time periods, like the 2030s. That's covered from 2020 to 2039. So for the 2050s, it's covered range from the 2040s to 2059, so on for the 2090s to the from the 2080 to 2099. So so when we have proposed this, so the next step is how to predict in the future the changes. So as you know, we always use the GCM. We call it the GCM index, general circulation models, and they have over 100 models. How to choose this kind of models? So the first of all, here we how to construct the future weather file. So we have proposed to use the method called the morphing method. This it was developed by the meteorologists at the University of Leeds in the UK, Burgess and his colleagues, published in 2005. So, for example, for the temperature, if we wanted to look at the future hourly the temperatures, we have got the present day in the hourly temperature plus the delta T. This is a shift. They call it the shift, and then not just shift. Maybe wanted a stretching, so they can be follow the changes of current. So the prediction in the future, the time series in the temperatures is shift and plus the shift. So all this, like delta T is monthly, like the January, monthly in the temperature increase, and for the stretch factors is monthly maximum temperature increase minus minimum temperature and the monthly increase, and divided by the month maximum temperature minus the monthly in the minimum temperature. This is stretch in the factors. For another the parameters like relative humidity, wind speed, and the solar radius, we just use the stress the factors, because if you use the also shift, maybe you have a 8 or 9, you still have solar radius, so that's not avoid this. So just is the stretch. So this is the methodology we use. So based on this, the parameter we required for develop. So we have a detailed discussion with our colleagues at the Ocean Garden. They are the expert today at the atmosphere and also global warming the modelings. So after we have a couple of discussions. So they have suggested these 8 models for our purpose to predict the future, the changes, and also they generated all the data for all the regions for Australia. So this you can go to this website, look at the detail, how to choose this the GCM models, and also you can have access yourself to play with the future generations. So based on these 8 models and the data they generated, so we needed to, for each scenarios, each the climate zones and the regions. So also need to look at we have looked at the changes, like this represent the concentrations changes. So each model you need to have reflect this changes. So the temperature increase, like for example, as you have maybe got the maximum and the increase around the 2030, and then the decline. So if your model cannot have a prediction, that means you cannot use that model. So So based on that, we got the data for each scenario regions and the parameter we required for monthly the data. So then we can construct the future weather files. So totally, you look at it, we have 83 and 3 scenarios and 4 in the period. So we totally have 996. The model needed to manually to choose. So this that's a work we need to do, and then based on this, so we have generated the data. As I said before, so if you have for the notice, we have just absolutely how to calculate from the absolute humidity and also temperature. This is the formula we use to calculate the relative humidity and also the dew point temperature. So that's most of I wanted to say. So so we have 2 types of format. One is TXT file that can be used for all the software based on the channel engines like the fast rate and also plus. And for NH plus, we have the .epw format. So that's current we have for this for the weather files. Here is the reference for my talking before. So this paper report have not published yet. This they have submitted to the government. Okay, so here is my contact detail. If you have any questions, and yeah, and also if you are also interested in the summer tools like the whole house energy rating tool for new houses, they're already submitted to industry for evaluations. So I can, if you have signed a license agreement with CSO, I can send you the link to download to play the whole house tool and also designer tool. Yeah, that's all. So yeah, and over to the host again.
Thank you so much, Jensen. I'll just share a couple of slides on my end. Second. Yep. Can you see my slide?
Not yet.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
All right. First of all, thank you so much, Melissa and Jensen, for this event and having this discussion and explaining us how this data files have been created and how we can further use them in the modeling. So thanks a lot. All right, yeah. And thank you everybody for attending the seminar. Just a note that the recording of this webinar will be available on our website. And if anyone has missed the seminar or wishes to revisit, you can check it on our website. A quick note, if anyone is interested, if you're eligible to claim the GBCA CPD point from this event, all you have to do is show your ticket to GBCA and claim the point. All right, so now let's look at the chat box and look at the questions that we have got so far. So it's all over to Melissa and Jensen. Let's see what we have got. Stop sharing my screen. Yep. So yeah, so we have a couple of questions here in the chat box. So first up is from Noni. She says, thanks Melissa and Jensen for presenting today with the IPCC 6th assessment report issued in August. How is the new assessment affecting the projection and this future weather files developed based on previous projections? Are there planned updates of the future weather files periodically?
Oh, you go, Zhengen.
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
I was just going to say that when we were creating these weather files, it was before the IPCC 6th assessment report was out. So we were using the RCP representative concentration pathway scenarios. Some of the sixth report assessments, I think they're called SSPs, are equivalent to the RCPs, so you can sort of see what the equivalent ones are. And we do have, we are considering updating in the future, but Zhengen could say more about that, I think.
Yeah, I think that, you know, for the weather files, I'm not sure currently NCC, they have regularly to update the Y on reference map, because this is currently maybe 3 years or 5 years. So look at it, we currently have 2016. So if the new TMI weather file come in, maybe we wanted to update to the new the versions are not just based on the 2016, maybe another. So the versions we will work on it, but consider the carbon emissions scenarios or pretend concentrations. Yeah, for I look at the new IPCC report, they have added the RCP 1.9. That's maybe corresponding to Paris Agreement. The temperatures increase not larger than 1.5 degrees. So current we have 2.6 is 2 degrees. So another maybe, yeah, very similar, maybe added another 7 or something like that. So yeah, it was to do that. If some people in G3 look at the Paris Agreement, and also for that, because the climate changes, the TMI weather file maybe need update frequently, like 3 years or 5 years, then we have look at it. But for at this stage, we maybe just leave it there, because the TMI weather file is not developed by the CSIRO, it's by the third parties. So when they're updated, maybe we work on that. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope that answers Noni's question, which means that we still have to look into the IPCC 6 and refer to the RCP 1.9, as you mentioned, Jensen?
Yeah, they have the new is 1.9. This is the Paris Agreement in responding. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next we have another question from Hania. She says, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering why precipitation data has not been included so far, and if there are plans to include rain data in the future. It is currently difficult to carry out long-term hydrothermal modeling. Yeah. So I think she's concerned with the, yeah.
Zhengen will give more detail, but for the NATRS assessed simulations, precipitation data is not required, and that's sort of why the original data did not need precipitation data. I think my feeling is, but Zhengen will need to correct me on this, is that the precipitation data is included in the EPW files, but it's not projected forward into the future. So it's just sort of using the current typical. Is that right, Zhengen?
Yeah, this is they also developed the EPW for commercial, including represent data there. But you know, it is I look at the NH Plus or another building management, they are not using this kind of data. So we just ignore that, because to be honestly, for the climate change models, currently more confident is the temperature. For another parameters is not so confident. So typically for this kind of data, maybe when we use it, maybe very carefully. So if we can predict the accurate, maybe added to the is good, you know. Otherwise, you maybe use carefully this kind of data for current the global warming data and models. So I just leave it that not to predict this kind of, because we have not got much information on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of more questions based on the same basis of including hydrothermal data and hydrological data. So is there anything you would like to add to it?
Not from me.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, for our the purpose for start point is look at the parameters, the key parameters for building simulation, the energy simulation for another data. We have not get eyes on that. You know, for I know for another purpose maybe we do more other data, but for energy building simulations, the key parameters is I mentioned in the methodology and the key parameters. So another data we have not looked at. So yeah, maybe another field, maybe they are more interested in that data.
All right, so thank you for that. And then we have a couple more questions relating to this. Stefan, who says, hi Jensen, I've noted that RCP6 curve is slightly lower than RCP 4.5 up to 2060. What is the reason?
You can look at their report, and they just use, you know, combine the different pathway to look at the different scenarios. So they are look at the pathway concentrations. Maybe they combine the social science and other reasons. So they are, yeah, look at the different the pathway, and yeah, this is they're detailed on the report. They are giving you some indicate why this concentration, the greenhouse, the concentrations change follow. They are designed the pathways. Yeah, I cannot say much more. This is adopted from the report from the IBPSA report. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that one. And we have PC Thomas asking, hi Jensen, maybe I missed it, but which of the 8 GCM models are used in the predictive files? I presume it will be the Axis 1.0.
So, so the 8 the GCM models, yeah, we have used is not all of them more, because we have this 8. So for each period, each the regions, we maybe use different models, just not average, just choose one, the models, like the RCP 2.6. If for all 4 periods, the model can predict the trends, like the follow the temperatures, follow the carbon, the concentrations. Maybe we think that models may be realistic diffraction can be used to the. So not average, just choose the one models can present the prediction, the changes follow the RCP, the scenarios. Yeah.
Okay, so is it, so the answer is it to presume that we have used Axis 1.0? So that is yes.
So for which one?
This is the GCM models used in the predictive files.
Yeah,
I think that's just one of the 8 used. So
yeah.
one is one of the 8 ones. The Access 1.0 is one of the 8 models used, depending on the scenario and what weather parameter and what location. That sort of determines which of the 8 models is used, I think.
Yeah, just choose one. One have reflected the, as I said, you know, and also we look at the prediction. The main the parameter is the temperature, humidity. So if that model, either for that regions and for that period, have given, we look at the reasonable the indication and predictions. That model will be chosen. For look at another 7 is not reasonable to predict. One will be chosen the reasonable one. Yeah, that's manually to choose that one.
Okay.
And all the data, like the monthly and all the data, is generated from the framework by our college from the Oxford Garden. So we look at the model generated data, and so we should choose which one to represent that scenarios and the regions. Just one, not average. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. There's another question. There's a question from Anirupa there. He's saying, historically, TMY climate files are prepared by selecting representative months from observed weather data set. Do you think morphing technique is fit for billing simulation purpose? Have you compared the predictive climate files with the latest weather data sets, say 2016 to 2020?
We have this what is that we have not have the version of 2020 yet for the TM. We have currently we just have 2016, and also we have a previous 2006. I think the previous is 10 years ago before the 20. So we have a summer. Yes, in summer regions have a 0.6 or 0.7 star difference or something like that. So they have some impact, but officially they have not. They have currently still use for NATAS. They are still working on this. Maybe the star bands want to change it or something like that, but they still use the previous 2006. But I'm not sure when they will launch this. Yeah.
Okay. So we do have a lot of questions and we still have some time, so we get through all of them. I could fire 2-3 questions at once to you, so probably we can get going a bit faster. So we have got collected most of the common questions here from the chat today. So one of that is, how easily can these files be created for other regions, example, New Zealand, using BERS PRO with the new weather files? And are there any updates on whether these are being used to derive our future NCC requirements?
I think from the methodology is maybe very similar, but you need to look at the regions you are considering which GCM model should be used. So maybe you ask the GCM model expert to choose the model so you can use then generate the data similar to the Australia. So you can, based on the methodology we propose, that you can construct the weather file for New Zealand. If New Zealand, we have accurate, we also have New Zealand versions. If they are using accurate New Zealand versions, their format is the same, the change engine, because you mentioned the same. So the format is the same, then maybe use similar the format. So that's I can say, yeah. So
you would recommend us to use a similar format even for New Zealand, is it?
Yeah, if they use the change engine or accurate the New Zealand versions we developed before for them, yeah, they can use the same format.
Okay. All right, so there's another one. Is there from Jesse? Is there a map that I can find that says where the 83 sites are? Apologies if I missed in the presentation.
Yeah, if you look on the CSIRO data shop where you can get the data, there are user guides associated with each of the data sets, and in that there's a list of all the 83 locations with their names and lat longs of each of them, so you can see where they're. I don't know if there's a map in the user guide, but it's certainly got the locations where they are.
Okay, so I think she can find out the locations visiting the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. There's next one is, thanks for the interesting presentation. Is there any plan to work on RCM based future weather files? GCM based or MOF weather files don't really cover the variability or extreme conditions of future climate, right?
Yeah, we are still on the plan, for, I hope I can get the one or PhD student work with me to look at the extreme in the weather fire, yeah, for the current scenario and also for the future. Hopefully, I can get PhD work with me. Yeah.
All right. So the next up is, thanks for the presentation. Are any of the RCP 6.0 files available for the download? This scenario could be treated as a medium climate scenario for projected analysis. So quite not sure if that was a question or a statement, but yeah, is the RCP 6.0 files available for download?
No, look, we didn't. We selected 3 of the scenarios, and that was not one of them.
Okay.
So there's yeah.
So would it be available in future or anytime soon? Are there any plans to roll out?
Zhengen?
Sorry?
We've got any plans to do the RCP 6.0 scenario?
I think, this what is the for intermediate, why we choose 4.5. This is from the suggestions, maybe can have some reflection. You can have, if you want the detail, you can do all the suggestions, the scenarios. But this is particularly that when you manually to choose the modelings and also this is a lot of work. So we are just simplified to choose the 3 primary, intermediate, and the worst cases. So yeah, you can do another scenarios, but even in the future, maybe we cannot cover all the scenarios. Maybe just maybe one is 1.9, and maybe another suggestion is maybe possible the future scenarios we will add it maybe maximum 5, something like that, not cover all the scenarios because they have a list. From the report, they have discussing all the possible scenarios, intermediate and the low intermediate, something like that, different than the social and the factors impact on these carbon emissions. So, we maybe in the future maybe cover 1 or more, 2 more scenarios to the future weather fires. Not all of them.
All right. Okay, thank you on that one. And I think we have about 5 last questions to go. So this one is from David. He says, have you investigated developing extreme meteorological year database? These are currently available for evaluations based on historical data, but a similar approach could be developed as representative for future extreme years.
I'll leave that to you, Zhengen.
So what he consider is the extreme in the future. So so as I said, for the current, we just look at the typical of called the average the weather data. For another extremely weather data not developed yet, and also for the 8.5, that scenario is extremely, they are called, maybe it's called the worst the scenarios. So if you look at the worst scenario, maybe you use the 8.5, look at what happened for the energy design or energy performance. So maybe can give you some indicated what is the worst scenarios for the energy performance of the building.
All right. So the next up is from Tatiana. Is there any intention to integrate this weather data as mandatory for modeling pathways in the National Construction Code? I think this is something everybody's looking for. Even as a modeler myself, I would be really interested to carry it out in my everyday practice.
I know the National Construction Code is looking at resilience at the moment and looking at what they can do to make sure that the code does address that or meet or in some way. I think it's early stages, and I think looking at future weather data is a potential thing to look at, but I don't think I think it's a future thing.
Okay. All right. I think we have to keep waiting till it happens and then use it when it's available with NCC. So next up is from Chris. We really need these files to provide the predicted precipitation data. So I would encourage CSIRO to add this to future files so we can design for water resilience. So I think a lot of them have concerns and interest in the water resilience domain, but I think which has already been answered by you, Jensen. Which still would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, as I said, for our the weather data is not much focus on the rainfall or something. So maybe another field, maybe they are working on this. We have not focused on this area. Yeah.
Okay, so the next is from Noy. I think that some of the RCP predictions also suggest that precipitation patterns and distribution over a year would change. I suspect this would be harder to calculate as compared to temperature or humidity changes. So would you have to comment on this one?
Yeah, that's for the, as I said, mostly from the global warming, the modeling, the experts, the more accurate confidence on the temperature or another parameter. Maybe still have I think uncertainties may be larger than that.
Yeah, so I think we are close to finishing, so we could just take about the last 3 questions that we have. So yep, again, we do have one more comment from Priya Gandhi on rain data, where she says, regarding rain data, given how uncertain predictions are, it would be useful to have multiple cases to stress test against. Having a single file may be misleading if model is still so uncertain. So that seems like we had a good discussion on the teams as well. And then the last 3 that we would quickly take up is humidity inside buildings becomes more critical once a building air tightness is improved. Dehumidification, that is by HVAC or HRV, becomes important. Therefore, humidity in the weather data file for modeling becomes important. I just want to check that the predictive models include humidity predictions into the future.
Yeah, they have the prediction for the humidity, relative humidity. Yeah, for the global, the GCM models, they have a prediction the relative humidity, the changes. So yeah, look at the data for building energy performance simulations. So the rainfalls for the building simulations may be most relevant to the relative humidity and also dew point temperature. So this is not directly, maybe indirectly reflected the future some changes with not directly to the rainfalls. Yeah.
And also to see more detail about the data that is included in the files, if you go to the shop and look at the user guide, that sort of gives the format and what data is included, what weather data is included in each. So you can get more information there as well.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Melissa and Jensen. It was very informative, and I think we had a chance to really go through a lot of questions. That was really good. I hope everybody enjoyed this event and had their questions answered. If you have any more questions, please feel free to mail it to IBPSA australasia.org. We shall get back to you. And thank you so much, Melissa and Jensen.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
If anybody have want detailed discussions, just give me an email and I will answer as possible. So this is my pleasure. Okay, thank you everybody. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.